welcome back to the channel. My name is Carrie with bluescitypickin, and I'm a part-time reseller that goes around to thrift stores, estate sales, yard sales, rummage sales, and tries to find things to flip for a profit on eBay. Hopefully. You'll see today that some of them I did not, and that's okay too. You live, learn, and move on. If you'll see, I'm wearing the exact same thing, and my hair looks exactly the same because this is part 2 of Ching number 32. Had so many sales this week that I decided to split the video into 2 so that I would not bore you excessively with 45 items in one video. This is for the second half of the week. This is for April 10th through April 12th. So this was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I sold 23 things on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for a total gross sales of $603.80. The sales price, and so that first part includes taxes and shipping. The sale price that I agreed upon with the buyer was $456.34. I had $97.50 into the sales. And so I made a profit of $266 and a penny after fees, taxes, shipping, purchase price, etc. Average gross sale price of $26.25, average sale price of $19.84, an average profit of $11.57 this set of days. You'll see why there were some lower dollar items that I picked up at rummage sales and Goodwill's bins recently that I was happy to go ahead and move them along. They were bought with the intent of selling them at a lower price, so I'm okay with that. As far as time in store, I had some things that sold the same day that I listed them, and then I had an item that took 312 days to sell. The average for this set of items was 65 days, which is absolutely great. That is more than 100% sell-through rate in my opinion. So super happy with the inventory turn on these particular items. And I will cover, kind of the categories of what sold and where I had sourced them from and like how that profit broke down at the end. Going ahead and getting started. The first thing that I sold was this Jujubee Harry Potter backpack. I paid $9.04 for this at Goodwill back in January. When I got it home, I realized it had some damage, so I had to stitch it back up and disclose that in the listing. That did affect the price. So I did sell it for $25, and bought it for $10.28, sold it for $25, made $9.04. While I bought it back in January, it sold very quickly, and I was happy to go ahead and get that moved out of my inventory. Next up is a large lot of vintage wood beads, strings, etc. This was new old stock. It came from a home clean out, and the buyer paid $22.50. I had nothing into it, so I made $18.95 after 24 days. Next up is this Dirt Devil attachment kit. It was for the Royal vacuums. I picked this up at the Goodwill bins for my average cost was 94 cents per item that day. It had been looked over quite a bit. Like, people just kept going over it, and I'm like, what's wrong with this thing? Like, I know that vacuum attachments sell really well, so I brought it home. It was complete, and so the buyer paid $19, and I profited $14.76 after just 6 days. Next up is a Douglas plush. This was a Douglas Cuddle Toy. It was a goose, and his name was Francois. I picked this up at a church yard sale back at the beginning of March for $8. It sold for $12, and so I made $7.66 after just 12 days. Next item was the longest tail in the set of things that sold today. This was a Lego Elves Faren and the Crystal Hollow. It is a retired set. I did pay $13.82 for this from a toy auction last May. I've kind of gotten out of doing those because the items that I have from those toy auctions, I still have a number of them that are still sitting in my inventory. So I've just kind of gotten away from that a little bit. Not that I would never do it again, but I haven't done that in a while. It did sell for $38.80, and so I did make $17.08 after 312 days, but I know if I had bought something else, it would have turned over faster, and I could have probably made more than that in the same amount of time. Next up is a vintage pound puppies. This was a Tonka pound puppy. So if you're looking at vintage pound puppies, you are looking for the Tonka brand. You want to look, make sure they've got their collar. If they don't, make sure you are disclosing that. Don't spend a lot on them because they're not worth a whole lot, but do pick them up. I love me some vintage pound puppies. This day I paid $1.63 for this large gray one at the Goodwill. On March 26th, I had him listed. He sold for $19, and so I made $13 and a penny after just 7 days. Next up is another Goodwill Bins find. This was an anime. I don't know if you know, One Piece is the name of the anime. It was a backpack. It was in very nice condition. Did not even look like it had been used. I paid 94 cents per item that day, and it sold for $19, and so I made $14.75 after just 13 days. Next up is the oldest item that was still in my store that had not sold, and I lost money on it. So this just proves you live, you learn, you move on. This was a pair of Taos sneakers. When I did my research back in the day, they looked to be better than they were. And so I paid up for them at $12.99 at Goodwill back in December of 2023. Let me just say, my inventory goes sequentially. This was number 3 in my inventory, and I think I'm on 2,000 and something now. But they did finally sell for $13, exactly what I paid for them. And so I lost $2.45, but they are gone, and I've learned my lesson, and I've recouped my money to invest in other things. Next item is a lot of 2 adult coloring books. These came from the bins as well. My cost of goods that day was about 88 cents per item. I sold them for $9, and so I made $5.96 the same day I listed them. Next up is a pair of Nike shoes. I'm pretty sure these were in my 40% off sale for if you didn't join me for my part 1 of this cha-ching. I have a number of my older items in my store on 40% off to try to get them moving and get them out and get them fresh and gone, so I can get some fresh new inventory in. I paid $7.99 for these at Goodwill last July. They sold for $19, and so I still made $6.11 after 262 days. Next item is a Keeland Racetrack hat. It was more of like a outdoorsy type hat. It was khaki. It was super cute. I did pay up for this at $7.67 at City Thrift for it. However, it did sell for $34.29, and so I made $20.37 after 58 days. If you see equestrian, horse track type things, take a look at them. Keeland is a famous track, so if you find things with that on it, I've found a couple things over the years. They usually do sell, so just look it up and take a look. Next up is a pair of Paw Patrol figures. These came from the bins. It was 2 of the Cat Pack. Leo and Shade. I've had 88-cent cost of goods at the bins that day, so they sold for $9, and I made $4.90 after just a day. Next up is something in my 40% off the sale. This was a gunned rainbow rabbit. I did pay $2 for this at an estate sale last July, and he only sold for $7. So I made $2.55 after 264 days, but it is gone. Next item is a Radio Shack 12 amp regulated power supply. I paid $1 for this at a church rummage sale back at the end of March. I had it listed for 19 because it was dirty. There were some things like chipping and cracking, and I couldn't really test it. I just made sure that it powered on. So I went ahead and listed it for $19, and it sold almost immediately, and I made $14.05 after 2 days. Next item is a set of 2 bird pictures with bamboo frames. I picked these up at Goodwill back in March. Nope, lying, back in February. I was like, I don't remember picking those up recently. Back towards the beginning of February. I did pay $12.42 for them. They sold for $41.65, and so I made $22.05 after 60 days. They were not that difficult to ship. I have a box resizer that I use, so I cut down a box, got it out there, and good to go. I will try to put a link for the box resizer that I use down in the comments so you can see that, but it works really well and it makes life easy. Let's see, next up is a Mossy Oak camo shirt. This was an extra large. I bought this at City Thrift for $6.59. It sold for $26.10, so I made $14.57 after 21 days. Next up is a Lovey. I've been digging selling the Loveys lately. I've had a number of them starting to move out of my shop. This was a Blankets and Beyond Lovey. It had leopard spots. I paid $1 for this at a church rummage sale back at the beginning of March. It sold for $12, and so I made $8.35 in 14 days. Next item is a Cincy. I know a lot of people aren't super high on Cincy's. I mean, if you find the right one, it'll still move. It had a sunflower on it. It was super cute. It was retired. It didn't have any chips or cracks or melted wax in it. So I went ahead and picked it up at Goodwill for $5.33. It sold for $20. And so I made $10.85 after 23 days, and it was not difficult to ship. Next up is a Pokemon. This is the Game Freak brand. So vintage Pokemon, 1998. This was a Butterfree plush. It did have some damage on it that I did not try to clean. I just put that in the listing, showed pictures, and moved on. Paid $1 for this at a church rummage sale back at the beginning of March. Sold for $8, and so I made $4.18 after 8 days listed. Next up is another bins find. This was a couple of smalls. This was Thomas the Train type things. This was Harold the Helicopter and the Sodor Bay Tugboat. I had 88 cents cost of goods that day. I picked these up because they were weird characters, and because I had 2 of them, I went ahead and listed them because they were stranger characters. And I didn't have a lot into them. They sold for $12, and so I made $9 and a penny after just a day. Next item is a Lego Duplo. This is a motorized red locomotive train. It was tested. It did work. I actually had 2 of these in a large Lego lot that I bought from City Thrift back on January 1st. I pieced and parted that whole thing out, so I have $2 cost of goods onto this particular listing. It sold for $42, and so I made $33.67 after 87 days. Next item is a pair of, nope, I saw Tony Llama and I thought boots. This is a Tony Llama belt. It was from Goodwill. I paid $5.12 for it back in January. It had some really pretty, like, silver tone, like, coins on it. And then the belt buckle was really pretty with a star on it. It sold for $20. And so I made $11.65 after 76 days. And the last sale for a super awesome week was this vintage Hugab Bunch Giglet plush doll with tags. This is from 1984. It was a Taco Bell promotion. I bought this at an estate sale back at the end of March, and my average cost of goods for that sale was $1.13. it sold for $9. And so my gross profit was $4.94, but it sold in 2 days. So move it on, find something else to flip. Pretty pleased with last week. If you missed part 1, I'll link it. Go back and check out part 1 because it was a great video. As far as where the profit came from, you probably heard a theme. I've been to the Goodwill bins, I think 4 times now. And so you will probably start to hear the bins more often. I am finding stuff there that has made it worth my while to continue to go back and continue to try to source that way. So of my $266 in profit for those 3 days, 45% of it came from Goodwill, 13% of it came from yard sales or rummage sales, and about 26% of it came from other, which is like the other thrift stores, looks like mainly City Thrift this particular week. As far as the array of what sold, clothing, not as much this time at 28%, household goods at 36%, toys at 30%, because that was a decent amount of what I found at the bins was like household and toys. I don't enjoy digging through the clothing at the bins, although I have found some nice pieces the last few times I've been there. Usually I'll dig through one and then I'm like, meh, I want to go look at the toys and the household goods. So that's just me. I know the last few times I've been there, there are definitely some clothing resellers there and they are pulling some absolute gems out of there. So don't be deterred from going to the bins to dig through for clothing. It's just not for me. And if I wasn't finding anything in hard goods or there were only clothing bins being wheeled out, I'm sure I would spend some time on that. But when I go to the bins, I'm not one that stays for like 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, like some folks do and some resellers do. The time that I have to do that, it's maybe an hour and a half at most. I will stay 2 hours sometimes, at least the first few times. But once I feel like I've gone through everything, and depending on how quickly they're rolling out new bins and how many people are there, I will decide to stay or not. But in the past few weekends when I've been, by the time I was ready, like I had gone through my cart, gone through everything, there were a lot of people there, and I knew that I was just going to be kind of uncomfortable dealing with any new bins that rolled out, so I just chose to leave. And I've still done incredibly well with everything that I've purchased from the bins, so I'm happy. If you like this kind of content, I would genuinely appreciate a like, a subscribe, and a comment on the video. Have you ever been to the bins? Do you hate people as much as I do? And by when I say I hate people, I just don't enjoy crowds. I like it to be a little bit more chill, and sometimes the bins is not like that. So let me know your experience if you have been. If you haven't been, is that something that you would like to do at some point? And I really genuinely appreciate you guys coming by. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.